I have lived in Malaysia for a few weeks and have interacted with some of the locals here and also visit their houses. So that prompted me to kind of make this video, because while our cultures are largely similar in terms of the races, the language, and maybe some of the food, I think there is a fundamental difference in the perspective towards two very important assets or liabilities. And those are the properties and cars. And why do I specifically talk about these two items is because these two are the largest, biggest ticket items within the Singaporeans' lifestyles, because they spend a huge amount of money buying their houses and cars and going on debts, on loans, and I'm very sure these two purchases are probably one of the most important financial decisions in your life. And I'm going to split this video into two sections because there's so much to talk about and there's so many opinions. So the first part I will cover on the property first, and then the second part I will cover about the cars. But I know that when I do such comparison videos, a lot of you have a lot of opinions on. So why not come and join my Telegram group with close to 10,000 members to share whether I'm correct or I am an idiot. Over there, you can really share your own opinion, and then you can debate all you want on a public platform as long as you're polite. Join us at Honey Money SG. I'll start off with the property discussion first. And with Singapore being such a small little country, we have very limited space and land is a scarcity, which is why property prices in Singapore are amongst the highest in the world. There is also a lot of government regulation to prevent properties from becoming a property bubble such that people are unable to afford their homes. And that's why we also have government provided housing, which we call them HDBs, developed by the Housing Development Board of Singapore. And the sole purpose is to provide affordable housing for its citizens. And the fact here is a majority of Singapore residents all live in these public HDB flats, including myself and my future property being a BTO flat built to order. There is also a tight restriction on foreign ownership on Singapore property, and this can come in the ways of tax and stamp duties. And all these measures are done by the government to ensure the affordability of property for its own citizens of Singapore. But is it sufficient or not? That is debatable, and we are not here to debate that. We are here to talk about the property comparison. And let's talk about Malaysia. Now, properties in Malaysia is a very diverse market. There is very low-cost housing options, and there are also very luxurious apartments or even houses, detached houses, bungalows. And the prices of this property can vary a lot from rural to suburban to urban areas. All these have a lot of options in between. For foreign ownership wise, based on what I researched, there isn't a lot of restrictions. I think foreigners can buy property quite easily in Malaysia as long as it is above a certain threshold, which I think it is 1 million ringgit right now. But before I go into more specific details, here is a word from the sponsor of today. Here is how you can win up to $360 of cash credits when you trade FX CFDs with Philip CFD. Execute 8 FX CFD trades and get $20 CFD cash credits. But if you execute 28 more FX CFD trades, you can get an additional $100 of CFD cash credits. In total, you will receive $120 of CFD cash credits when you execute 36 or more FX CFD trades every month. And you can repeat this for 3 months to get a total of $360 CFD cash credits. With Philip CFD, you can trade 39 FX pairs commission free. They also offer tight competitive spreads that go as low as 0.3 pips. Do note that this promo will only last for a limited time till 29 December 2023. To start trading and earn some attractive cash credits, use my referral link down below or scan this QR code right here to start trading CFD with your Poems account today. One more thing, I will also be speaking live at an event organized by Philip on whether you should invest your CPF. This event will be held on 28 October 2023 at Raffles City. So for those of you who want to meet me in live person and also enjoy some delicious free food, you can sign up for this event using the Google form link right here, and I'll see you there on the event. Now, the thing about property in Singapore is that Singaporeans tend to want to upgrade their property. Like, they are staying in a HDB flat and they want to move to a condo because they view staying in a condo being more high class than HDB. Maybe because of the demographics, because of the neighborhood, I don't know. And subsequently, landed property is like the prime level of Singapore property. And even within landed property, you have like normal semi-D houses, you will have like terrace houses, and you also have good class bungalows. All these are different tiers of social status that the rich like to play with. And typically in Singapore, if you are staying in a prime area and you are staying in a larger house, you are deemed as more successful, more wealthy, because property prices are so insane in Singapore. It's very hard to afford a large house in a prime location. So we always assume that people who live in such property are really rich and are really successful, and we aspire to be like them. So there's always this obsession to go for a larger property in a better estate. Now, from my interactions with Malaysians, at least in a suburban area, I don't even think many of them had this kind of mentality of upgrading, because you can see that a lot of them actually live on landed houses already, be it like terrace houses, semi-D houses, cluster houses, and even if they live in condominiums, they don't treat it like a status symbol. It's more because of the location, it is near to their workplace, or they are moving to somewhere because it is nearer to their family, it is easier for the commute. No one really wants to move to a nicer area or prime area because Malaysia is so huge, right? There are so many options of housing on Malaysia because there is so much land and so many options, be it low-cost housing or prime housing or condominiums or landed houses. Malaysians generally don't really play the property game, I think. Like if you tell someone, I stay in a landed house, what about you? The other person probably stays in a landed house as well and maybe own one or two more of them because there's no ABSD. So in general, I don't really think Malaysians judge you based on where you stay, and it's more because of the convenience, like you stay near the workplace and you need to move to this area. And you see a lot of Malaysians actually move out of their hometown because maybe their hometown is a very small town and there are not much work opportunities. They need to move to further areas like KL or Penang or JB where there are better work opportunities. And most of them even move to Singapore, right, to earn that 3.4x. So housing is not really a big deal for Malaysians. And also, if you want to talk about property investment in Singapore versus Malaysia, it is much more fruitful to do property investment in Singapore despite the additional buyer's stamp duty. Because the rental yields in Singapore are more attractive and there is more space for capital appreciation. Because Singapore is an economic hub, a lot of foreigners come in, a lot of trade opportunities and business owners come in to set up their companies. And with more business opportunities will bring in more expats, more people coming into Singapore. And what do they need? Definitely housing. And that's why it's driving the rental market to a very high level. In fact, the past few years, we have seen rentals escalating beyond the normal affordability, like 2x of the original rent since COVID. But in Malaysia, it is quite different because it depends primarily on the location. Maybe in KL, the rental yields are really great because it is in the city center. That's where the main economic activity is and where all the expats are gathering around, and maybe somewhere in Penang. But you don't really see much of this in Johor Bahru because Johor Bahru is not like an economic hub. So there's so much land in Johor Bahru that every other year there is a brand new condo development coming up, and then you see all these foreigners, especially Singaporeans, buying all these condominium units, but they can't rent it out because there's no economic activity going on. There are no expats, no foreigners coming in to take up the jobs within Johor Bahru. That's quite different from Penang or KL. Therefore, I would say that rental rates within Malaysia is much more affordable compared to the salary that they are getting within Malaysia. But if you compare to Singapore, maybe it's a good 50% of your salary spent on rental already if you are a new foreigner coming in to Singapore to work. Even now, we have seen some home rentals within Singapore HDB, like a 3-room flat is commanding $3,000 if it's in a good estate. Then maybe 4-room flat is like a $4,000 a month. It's crazy, man, the rentals in Singapore. But I guess all these things can't be helped because Singapore is ultimately a land-scarce nation. It's like if you just treat Kuala Lumpur as its own nation, probably it will end up the same as Singapore as well. Everywhere being so expensive, property being unaffordable to the residents. And maybe this is why Malaysians are more contented and happy because a lot of them are able to afford their own homes and they are not subjected to the 99 years leasehold, which is why they truly own their own homes and they take a lot of pride in it, which is why they really love their country. Not to say that Singapore is really bad, because I think the government is trying to do the best that they can. In a city-state like Singapore, it is already very difficult to press down the housing and property prices because of the demand. If you compare to first-tier cities, it is almost unheard of if you could buy a 3-bedroom apartment within a first-tier city within 500,000 Singapore dollars. And I think you could still buy that $500,000 for a 4-room flat within Singapore HDB lah. In fact, property prices also directly correlate with the hotel rates right here. For example, if you look at this hotel room that we're staying in, it is only like 180 ringgit for Hilton Garden Inn in KL, which translates to around 55 Singapore dollars. I mean, could you even get a $55 room in Singapore with this standard? 4-star hotels in Singapore are definitely at least $200 a night right now. all in. So there's much more value in domestic tourism within Malaysia itself compared to Singapore. So yeah, this is the first part of the Singaporeans versus Malaysians perspective towards property and cars. In my next episode, I'll talk more about the cars because maybe that is more sensitive because car is also a status symbol, right? So stay tuned to that episode. But if you really want to find out why did I do this study between Singapore and Malaysia, then I can refer you to my previous video where I could show you the reasons what are the good points for living in Malaysia versus Singapore.